Crawling deeply in the dark, there are some common habits lurking around, causing you to miss out on a lot of gains. And this is a big problem if you're looking to build muscle as fast as possible to get the dream physique you've always wanted. Now, a ton of people around me are doing these habits which are holding them back, and at some point in my life I even did them myself. After fixing these habits, my gains started skyrocketing again, and to this day I'm still growing a good amount of muscle because of it. Now, not only will I tell you the bad habits and how to fix them, I will also prove them to you with science, so you know for 100% that what I'm saying is actually correct. Now, it's not just one habit that is entirely killing your gains, but when you avoid at least half of the habits, you should already notice a big difference. So make sure that you watch all of them so you don't end up wasting a lot of hours in the gym. Now, quickly make sure to smash that like button. For every like that I get, I will put up a picture of a cute cat in my following videos. So quickly hit that like button for more cute cat pictures. The first habit that is killing your gains is taking pre-workout before your training sessions. Now, this is not only pre-workout. This goes all the way from energy drinks to coffee and to even tea. And that's because all of these contain a substance that's called caffeine. Now, I know what you're thinking. Caffeine actually helps to boost performance, so how could this be bad? Well, just hear me out. Caffeine is actually great and even boosts performance, but this comes at a cost. You see, caffeine has a half-life of about 5 hours, but that means that only half of it is gone after 5 hours, so it takes even longer to fully get caffeine out of your system, and this does matter. Because as you've probably heard before, caffeine has a bad impact on your sleep. According to plenty of studies, caffeine has been actually shown to decrease the amount that you sleep during the night. For example, this study shows that consuming caffeine about 6 hours before bedtime reduced the total sleeping time for about 1 hour. And that's a lot considering you should already get at least 7 hours of sleep. But that's not the only thing that's affected. You see, your brain basically goes through mostly 2 different types of cycles while you're sleeping: REM and NREM cycles, also referred to as light sleep and deep sleep. The deep sleep is where the most of your recovery happens and is generally the most important. Now, when sleeping, we only cycle to deep sleep a couple of times, but caffeine can distort this. A systematic review looked at the differences between REM and NREM sleep when using caffeine, and it found that deep sleep was negatively affected by caffeine. Now, why is sleep so important, and is caffeine killing your gains? Well, this study from 2011 shows that when subjects were sleeping for about 5.5 hours, they had 60% less muscle mass, and the other group who slept 8.5 hours had 40% more muscle mass. So it's needless to say that sleep is very important when it comes to building muscle. Not only helps it recover your muscles, but bad sleep also negatively affects your performance, and this again leads to less gains. And thus caffeine ruins your gains. But hear me out. This doesn't matter as long as you're training first thing in the morning. But most people hit the gym right after they're finished working, but this is just too late to take caffeine. Now, a common problem is that people actually just use caffeine supplements to actually feel more awake for their workouts, but in reality they're just tired because of the caffeine to begin with. A general rule of thumb is to not consume any caffeine about 8 hours before you go to bed. Now, caffeine is not the only thing that is ruining your sleep, but more on that later in the video. Now, the second habit that is killing your gains is just going through the motion. And this is something that is so very common in the gym. But when you're in the gym, you need to be focused. It's best to not sit on your phone and just turn off any distractions and lift the weight. Sure, music is fine, but you should focus on a couple of things. The obvious first one is to focus on your technique. You should try to lift the weights right for better muscle growth, but the second one is to focus on that mind-muscle connection and squeezing the muscle. There are a couple of studies out there suggesting that a good mind-muscle connection can actually help with muscle growth. For example, this study found that when focusing on a mind-muscle connection, subjects were able to get 5% more muscular growth in their arms as opposed to subjects just moving the weights. Now, there are also other studies that show that using different coaching cues can help increase muscle activation, as shown in my latest back video. And there isn't really any downside to it, it's only potential growth that you're missing out on. So don't just simply go through the motion, but focus on contracting your muscles and your technique the next time you hit the gym. Now, the next one is actually a no-brainer, but it's more about a state of mindset. Stop drinking alcohol after your workouts. And that's because alcohol has been proven to have negative side effects on building muscle. For example, this study found that drinking alcohol drops your testosterone even after 30 minutes of drinking. And we know that this hormone is very important when it comes to muscle growth. Now, the subjects had to drink 1 pint of whiskey a day, and even after 3 days, their levels of testosterone were similar to people who were they're chronically drinking all the time, so way lower than the average person. Now, hormones aren't the only thing suffering from alcohol. Most of the time, alcohol dehydrates your system a lot, which then again interferes with muscle growth, but there's also one study regarding protein synthesis, a process that is required for muscle growth, and it found that alcohol heavily decreased the amount of protein synthesis and thus muscle growth. So it's needless to say that drinking alcohol after a workout is bad for building muscle. But here is where the mindset comes into play. It's difficult to say no to a drink when you're just out with friends, when you're going to a party or just having a drink. And we all know that there is some type of social pressure when it comes to drinking alcohol. Sometimes people even push you to drink along with them. But you don't just want to do everything that everyone else is doing, as long as you know you're doing the right thing. And try to think of it like this. I have never ever thought to myself, damn, I wish I drank alcohol yesterday, while on the other hand you have a lot of people regretting that they drank alcohol the day before. So try to stay strong and stay away from it. Drinking once in a while won't hurt, but moderation is the key. Also, if you do happen to want to drink, it's best that you schedule it around your workouts, so try to leave 1 or 2 days in between drinking and your training session. Another habit that you need to get rid of is doing the same workout over and over again or switching it up too many times. The base of a workout program mostly stays the same for about 8 to 10 weeks, and during this period it's best to switch up the rep ranges from time to time and maybe even the amount of sets and definitely the intensity. Now, after those 8 to 10 weeks it can be wonderful to actually switch up the exercises, but this doesn't have to be difficult. You can go from dumbbell bicep curls to barbell curls or incline dumbbell press to incline barbell press, and the list goes on. Now, in those 8 to 10 weeks you want to switch up the rep ranges and probably sets as well. For example, for the first week I would do 3 sets of 10 to 12 reps on, let's say, the bench press. After those 4 weeks I would do 5 sets of 5 to spark new muscle growth. Now, keep in mind what I've said before. You don't want to switch up your workouts every time. The reason your muscles are able to grow is caused by something called progressive overload. And that's something I have already talked about a lot in my other videos. Now, if you do the same workouts over and over again, you'll probably notice that you will come upon a plateau where you're not really building as much muscle as you had before. And that's something which is discussed in this article as the principle of diminishing returns. Meaning that if you have a workout program that is too monotone, you can expect to see less results. And this is where the periodization comes into place to break that plateau. In my full body training program, I utilize this in many different ways, which keeps it at a good balance to still progressively overload, but not staying with the same workouts all the time. So if you're looking to spark some new muscle growth or you just don't know what to do in the gym, make sure that you check out the link in the description below. I think the program will be out when I'm uploading this video, so if it's out you can find it in the link down below. Now, the last bad habit is watching TV or browsing your phone late at night just before you go to sleep. And yes, this does matter and it has to do with your sleep again. But it's very common in this day and age to feel tired all the time, and this is no coincidence. Your phone, TV or basically any type of screen emits blue light. Think about those times you walked around late at night and you see people watching TV at home. You often notice a blue type of color coming from their rooms. And to simply put it, blue light basically causes your brain to think it's daytime. Now, this blue light isn't harmful in any type of way unless you're seeing it right before bed. Now, don't worry, there are a few ways to go around this, as I will discuss in a minute. But because your brain isn't really able to distinguish blue light from real sunlight outside, it still thinks that it's daytime even though you're just about to go to sleep. Because you see, your body basically produces a hormone called melatonin, and this hormone helps to feel you tired and get you to sleep. But blue light is a great factor in inhibiting this melatonin. Just try to think of those times that you actually felt really tired and you just went outside and you suddenly feel awake again. That's blue light doing its job. Now, when melatonin gets blocked, it can be more difficult to get to sleep, but if you do happen to fall asleep fast, this doesn't really solve our problem yet. According to this research paper, exposure to blue light affects our NREM sleep or deep sleep as well. And this is arguably the most important one of the two cycles. And this causes us to conclude that blue light has a negative effect on your sleep. Now, how can we avoid this blue light? Well, the first option is to just not use any screen 2 hours before bed. You can, for example, read a book, but let's be honest, it's hard to stay away from screens 2 hours before you go to sleep. So better options are to, for example, use blue light blocking blocking glasses. Most are fairly cheap. I bought mine for like 20 bucks and I'll do my whole life with it. And along with this, I use blue light blocking apps. Microsoft has its own night lamp and I have an app installed on my phone called Twilight. And these apps filter most of the blue light coming from your screens, and this already helps a lot. Now a downside of this could be that you won't really be able to distinguish certain colors as well, but I found that you usually adapt to the orange glow of your screen quite fast. I personally care a lot about my sleep because I've been personally injured a lot during my life, and I generally feel much happier when I've slept well. So if you want me to cover more about sleep, let me know down in the comments below, and if you don't, also let me know as well. Smash the like button for more cute cat pictures, subscribe for more helpful tips, and I'll see you guys later.